I invite the panelists to come on the dais. Dr. Suresh Rahila, Dr. P.K. Jain, where is Purnendu? You can also sit. Dr. Din Dayalan. You are going to Sam. Who else is there in the panel? Let me have the panelist, and we can start the proceedings. Sit down. Yes, Purnendu was. I think I will not get into the formalities. I will request Professor Purnendu Bose, who actually had, myself and Purnendu Bose, we keep discussing over coffee every day on this issue of, and so I would like to request Professor Purnendu Bose to make a set the scene for the discussion. Because of the short of time, we will have to compress this a bit, and that responsibility I would like to give it to Sam. So you have a difficult task, but I think we need to drive the point. So we don't want to cut down on the real points, but let's try to take care of the time also. So I will request Dr. Purnendu Bose to come and
Thank you, Dr. Tare. So I will just set the scene. Basically, until now, we have been talking about various problems. Now it's the time to talk about certain solutions. We, the IIT consortia, have been brainstorming on what kind of solution is likely to work in India. And we have come up with this concept of zero liquid discharge into rivers. So this concept should be discussed, and that is what I'm going to set the scene for that discussion. So what is zero liquid discharge concept? Well, basically it means two things. One is that we are saying that no domestic sewage shall be discharged into rivers or into drains, which ultimately discharge into rivers or will be pumped to the subsurface. And secondly, we are also saying that no industrial effluent should be discharged into rivers or drains or allowed to be pumped into the subsurface. So the proposition is very simple, that nothing, not the pollutant nor the water, whether treated, untreated, or partially treated, goes into the river. So why do we talk about this? This may seem to be a very idealistic solution, especially compared to the present scenario, which I'm going to show now. Now, the present scenario in the Ganga basin is that discharge of treated domestic sewage and industrial effluent into rivers is allowed. Of course, there are certain rules and regulations. But however, I would like to point out that due to lack of treatment capacity, a major portion of this effluent is discharged into the river without treatment. Some figures were given in the mornings, maybe 65%, maybe 70% is going into the rivers completely untreated. And whatever treatment there is for the remaining 30%, our personal experience after visiting many treatment plants, maybe 100 treatment plants all over the Ganga basin, is that existing effluent treatment plants do not work as per design due to either operation or maintenance problems or due to various other reasons. Sometimes treatment plants, though they are constructed, are not operated. So this is the present scenario, that waste is being discharged, mostly untreated, sometimes partially treated. From this, we want to move to a zero liquid discharge regime. Okay. Now, for that, what has to be done? And there are other 2 points which we would like to say, that why this kind of violation is occurring. It's occurring because there's a lack of punishment or penalty for violation of the standards. So basically the point is that despite existing rules and regulations, the condition of the rivers have not improved over the last 25 years, more or less, due to, even despite this Ganga River Action Plan and things like that. This is the current situation. Now, the present model of effluent treatment in our country is the following, that generally accepted fact is that the pollutant should be treated by the urban local body or the local municipality. But most municipalities, what they say is that they don't have any money to treat their waste. So what has been done over the years is that the central and state governments pay for the operation and maintenance, for the capital cost of the treatment plants. They even pay for the initial operation and maintenance costs. And the ULBs are supposed to maintain and operate the assets thus created, the treatment plants, afterwards. Again, treatment of industrial effluents is the responsibility of individual industry, but again here, in many cases when industries have said they don't have money, etc., government has funded the construction of common effluent treatment plants, CETPs, for industrial clusters. Again, the operation and maintenance of CETPs is the responsibility of the constituent. So, central and state government pays the capital cost. The industry or the urban local body is supposed to operate and maintain. This is the present model of effluent treatment. With this present model of effluent treatment, the scenario is what I talked about before, that most of the effluent is not getting treated or it is getting partially treated. Okay. So with this kind of a scenario, it's very easy to critique the present model, and that is what I'm going to do now. And what I'm arguing, the conclusion we have come to at IIT is that it can be argued that the present model of effluent treatment is a failure. Why is it a failure? Because most urban local bodies lack resources, capacity, and also, this is most important, also the desire or the will to maintain the sewage treatment. So something is constructed, they're supposed to operate and maintain, they don't do it. Hence, many STPs constructed with central and state funds are working at suboptimal levels or are defunct. That means they do not work at all. And also due to various reasons, many industries, though by law they have to make treatment plants, and they continue to discharge untreated or partially treated industrial effluent into rivers, because they can get away with it because of our lax regulation standards, regulations and punishment. With impunity, they violate the law. This is the kind of situation which we are faced at this moment. Okay. And as I said, state pollution control boards have the power to shut down industries, have power to file cases against urban local bodies. None of these things are not done in a half-hearted way. Basically, they have been completely ineffective in prosecuting violators of the discharge standards. Now, what really concerns us is that some of these problems which we have talked about in the last slide and this slide are systemic. That means, for example, the question of desire, the question of the desire to treat the waste, lack of the desire, that is a systemic problem. Okay. So some of the problems are systemic. This means that systemic deficiencies are very critical because these deficiencies cannot be cured by pumping in more resources. If someone doesn't want to treat the waste, they think they can get away without treating the waste, then it's very difficult to change that mindset by pumping in more resources. So there's a problem with the present model of treatment of waste. Okay. So because they are systemic models, we are proposing a newer model. And what we are saying essentially is that this is our proposal. It is proposed that urban local bodies of class 1 towns and large and medium industries, industrial clusters should be denied the right to discharge effluent into the rivers. What do we mean by denied? That means neither pollution nor even water, nothing can be discharged. Instead, what we are proposing is that the effluent must be collected, treated to tertiary levels, disinfected, and then reused, recycled for industrial, horticultural, and non-potable commercial purposes. Okay, so you have to, the waste has to be collected, treated, disinfected, and then recycled and reused for non-potable commercial purposes. And in cases where there is not enough use for recycled or reused effluent, the remaining treated effluent should be released into canals, artificial lakes, ponds, etc., used for irrigation, rejuvenation of natural water bodies, incidental groundwater recharge, and for basically the idea is once you take water from the river, you have to reuse it, recycle it. You cannot put it back into the river. You can store it in reservoirs and ponds. It can be used for incidental groundwater recharge. Cannot be put back into the river. Okay, this is what we are proposing. Okay. Now, what is the main advantage of this model? The main advantage is that the problem of the lack of monitoring can be easily addressed in this case. Monitoring of compliance by an ULB or industry is easy, because the only thing to monitor here is whether liquid discharge is occurring or not. You don't have to go and measure BOD, COD, total coliform in the water. You have to only monitor whether discharge is occurring or not. And if, in such cases, along with state pollution control boards, even NGOs or civil society organizations, or even concerned citizens can detect and violations. And the other point in favor of this ZLD concept is that obviously if you implement ZLD and you can maintain this ZLD, then what will happen is pollution load in the river will reduce. It has to reduce, since ZLD implies complete stoppage of pollutant discharge. And this will directly lead towards the goal of Nirmal Dhara, which everyone was talking about in the last session if you had attended. Okay. So, in addition, implementation of the ZLD concept will result in mandatory treated effluent reuse and recycling, and almost everyone agrees that reuse and recycling is the way to go. You have to do it. There's no other way. Treated effluent can be efficiently used in irrigation. Treated effluent can be used for rejuvenation of natural bodies, and through these processes, it will lead to incidental groundwater recharge. We are not advocating groundwater recharge by pumping, but whatever naturally seeps in, that is fine. Now, because of all these things, because of reuse and recycling and all these things, and general improvement in the groundwater table and things like that, this will reduce the freshwater demand for various human activities, resulting in availability of more fresh water in the rivers, and thus lead to the goal of continuous flow or uninterrupted flow in the rivers. Now, it looks very, the plan looks to us very promising, because as effluent recycling and reuse become the norm, you have to do it. It may, what we are hoping is that a market for tertiary treated sewage will develop. That means industries, commercial users will buy this water, because now reuse recycling is mandatory. Sale of treated sewage, we hope, will ultimately, partially or fully, initially partially, maybe if it works well, fully defray the cost of sewage treatment. So sewage treatment cost will be partially obtained from the cost of sale of the treated effluent. Recycling of industrial effluents will become the norm, resulting in lower water demand and increased water security in the industrial. So industries can recycle their waste in-house, and that will reduce their dependence on fresh water, which is anyhow very difficult to obtain now, and this will increase the water security of the industrial concerns. So this is our proposition on the zero liquid discharge concept, and I hope there's a lively discussion on various aspects of this concept, so that we know if we have missed something or whether our ideas are feasible or not. Thank you very much.